This is your USMNT Abroad. Wait a second. Hold on. Usually we do the US Men's National Team Abroad weekend recap every Monday, but the season's pretty much over. And like all good things in life, they come to an end. And this will be the US Men's National Team Abroad season finale. It's not going to be a weekend recap episode, but we're going to use the exact same format of the weekend recap that you are accustomed to, and I will be doing player ratings. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad 2023-2024 season finale. Keep in mind that we do have an awards show coming out this midweek, so keep an eye out for that. We're going to have two special guests for that specific episode of the US Men's National Team Abroad series. But this episode right now is the last US Men's National Team Abroad Monday episode of the 2023-2024 season. But don't worry, don't cry. Or cry if you want to. We are going to have a very busy summer ahead. We're going to be covering the Copa America, the U.S. Men's National Team Abroad transfers, Olympics, the U20 World Cup qualifying. I'm going to need a lot of coffee this summer. And I really hope y'all enjoyed the coverage that me and Dustin provided of the Americans abroad this season. It was a lot of work because unlike Mexico, we actually have plenty of players in Europe. So I was busy all weekend long making these 20, 22, 24, 25-minute episodes, and Dustin was editing all of that, while if we just covered the Mexicans abroad, it would have taken us like 3 minutes. Maybe 4 in a good weekend. Keep in mind that I will be rating their seasons, the players, the American players in this episode on a scale of 1 to 10, with 5 being an average season. Feel free to let me know your ratings in the comment section down below, and keep in mind that this is also 100% subjective, and depending on how much you expect from a player, the rating can go higher or lower. Also, how much progress a player made from one season to another plays a role, and if the player regressed. His rating will also tank in that situation, because you likely expected more from him. With that said, make sure you hit the like button to help the channel out. After all, this would not be a YouTube video if you didn't have the host begging you for likes. As always, we start with the top 5 leagues in Europe, the first one being the English Premier League. So why don't we go to England and talk about Gio Reyna and Matt Turner from Nottingham Forest. Okay, let's cut right to it. Giovanni Reyna's season was a disaster. Maybe it helped him mature, and that will benefit him in the future, but there's no way that I can be certain of that. So I will not take that into account while rating his season. And I'm going to give him a 1.5 out of 10. It was truly a 1, but I gave him a 0.5 bonus just for being healthy most of the season, which in the past he was injury prone. He barely played for Borussia Dortmund, then he switched his agent mid-season to get a move in January to Nottingham Forest. And the poop was stinky in Dortmund and it smelled really bad. But somehow the smell got worse in England. I'm just going to assume it's because of their food. He barely played for Dortmund, and then he moved to a relegation battle side where he literally played even less. He is actually one of our most talented players, and this season was a major disappointment. He played a total of 590 minutes and got 2 assists. That's not good enough, and he needs to improve next season. The other American that plays for Nottingham Forest is Matt Turner, and this season for him was a 1 out of 10. Literally a 1 out of 10. It was terrible. He left Arsenal to finally become a starter in the Premier League and prove that he was English Premier League quality. He ended up proving that he is not Premier League quality. He got benched, even led to Nottingham Forest making a desperation goalkeeper signing in January. I think it's safe to say that Turner flopped in the Premier League. He needs to find a new club to play, and he'll likely have to go down a level or 2, which is unfortunate. I thought Nottingham Forest was his level, and to be fair, Sells, the goalkeeper that they signed, he also kind of sucked. Neither of them seem to be Premier League quality. Regardless, I'm going to give Matt Turner a 1. I just don't really see anything positive from his season. Next up is Chris Richards from Crystal Palace. And I'm going to give Chris Richards a 7.5 out of 10, which is a very good season. It wasn't perfect, but it was very good. He finally broke through and became a starter for a mid-table Premier League side. He did also show his versatility, as he did play as a central defensive midfielder for a good portion of his games earlier in the season. However, in the last quarter of the season or so, something like that, after Marc Guéhi got injured, Chris Richards became a locked-in starter in the center-back position, and it seems like it's his position to lose for the 2024-2025 season, because I also expect Marc Guéhi to leave this summer. This was a massive year for Chris Richards. Next on the list, we have another American center back in the English Premier League, and his name is Austin Trusty, and he played for Sheffield that got relegated. For Trusty, I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. He played for the worst defense in the history of the Premier League, conceding over 100 goals. But he did get plenty of minutes, valuable experience, and honestly, he wasn't their worst defender. He might do very well in the EFL Championship next season. Some might say that this rating might be a bit harsh because he wasn't that bad. But again, if your defense leaks over 100 goals, a 3 out of 10 might actually be generous. Seriously, he is a center back, so he definitely has fault on it. I think actually 3 is a generous rating. Probably 2 would have been better, but I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. Next up, we have the Fulham boys, Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream. Robinson had a fantastic season. He was rock solid on defense, had 6 assists, and helped Fulham have a comfortable season far away from the relegation zone. He has truly established himself as a very good English Premier League left back. Now, he ain't perfect. The ability in tight spaces isn't quite there, but he knows that, and he rarely lets that weakness get exposed. I'm going to give Robinson an 8.5 out of 10 this season. He was great. As for Tim Ream, he lost his starting spot around January, February. Prior to that, he was starting for them during the first half of the season, which is why he played roughly 1,500 minutes, despite being a backup for the last 13 games. With that said, he slowed down quite a bit this season, and I'm going to give him a 3 out of 10. And it's less because of his on-field performances, because he was fine when he played, and it's more because it seems like his time in Europe is coming to an end. Next season will probably be the last one, and I know a 3 might sound harsh for Tim Ream this season, but again, he barely played in the second half of this season. Next up would have been Tyler Adams, but I don't know what to rate his season besides a 1. He was injured the entire season. He barely played. I believe he had like 3 caps, maybe, some of them as a sub. I'm going to give Tyler Adams a 1, but it's not really because of his on-field performances. He didn't play bad when he played. It's just that he didn't do anything for Bournemouth ever since he got the move from Leeds. Well, he was injured for Leeds, came to Bournemouth, recovered from the injury, got injured again, came back, and then missed another month with a back injury. And he's healthy for the Copa America, but I have to give his season a 1. Now let's leave England and go to Italy to talk about the Americans that play in the Serie A. The first 2 being Christian Pulisic and Yunus Musa from Milan. And Christian Pulisic ended his first season with Milan with the following stats: 3,600 minutes, an injury-free season, which is quite important. He also scored 15 goals and had 11 assists. That is 26 goal contributions. For context, Rafael Leão ended up with 28 goal contributions. This was Pulisic's first season in Italy. Those numbers are actually quite remarkable. And for that reason, I am giving him a 9 out of 10. This was the best full season of his career. The 2 reasons I had to deduct 1 point and not give him a perfect season was the fact that Milan failed to win a trophy, and obviously Pulisic is not blameless in that sense, and also because Pulisic didn't really show up against most of the tough opponents. Like in the Champions League, he didn't play that well. Against Inter Milan, he also didn't play well. Even against Juventus, and that's why I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. As an American, we stand against all types of terrorism, so I expected him to at least take down Allegri, the soccer terrorist of the season that is now unemployed. As for Yunus Musa, he got some valuable experience, but he didn't really stand out or become a starter for Milan. I'm going to give Musa a 5 out of 10. I thought it was an average season. He's a good player, and he can play well as a central midfielder, but this dude can't really tackle, and when he reaches the offensive third, he just loses all of his abilities. When he gets to the final third, he can no longer pass, shoot, or dribble. It's true. You may be wondering why, and I have talked about this in the past. You have far less time and space on the ball when you're in the final third, which is why most skilled players on the ball, they're usually forwards, and that's not the case for Yunus Musa, and that's why he struggles. But he's still young, and hopefully he will improve. The talent is there, but like I said, he has to improve. But then again, 9 out of 10 for Christian Pulisic and a 5 out of 10 for Yunus Musa. Next up in Italy, we have Weston McKennie and Tim Weah from Juventus. Weston McKennie came into the season after an awful loan with Leeds United. I don't have to talk about that. And here's the thing. Juventus wanted him gone in the summer of 2023. Then a few injuries happened, and I believe Paul Pogba had a suspension as well, which led to Weston McKennie getting another shot with Juventus. And the rest is history. McKennie became a locked-in starter for Juve, putting out great performances, and he also got a total of 10 assists this season, helping Juventus return to the Champions League. And on top of that, he also helped them win the Italian Cup, the Coppa Italia. A big comeback season from Weston McKennie. It's unclear at the time of this recording if he will stay with Juventus or not, but one thing is for sure. He should have no issues finding a new club this summer if needed. And I'm going to give Weston McKennie an 8.5 out of 10. As for Tim Weah, he was okay. He mainly played as a right wingback all season long, mostly coming off the bench with a few starts here and there. He finished the season with 1 goal and 2 assists. One of the assists, though, was crucial in the semifinals of the Italian Cup to help knock out Lazio. I'm going to give Weah a 5 out of 10. I thought it was an average season, not great, not awful. He should probably take a step down and play for a club where he can be a winger instead of a wingback and, a consistent starter, just in my opinion. Now, before we continue, a quick word from the sponsor of this video, Underdog Fantasy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a minute. Underdog Fantasy is a fun game to play prior to any soccer match or basketball, football as well. It just adds an extra excitement to the game. And this summer, I will be playing Underdog Fantasy during the Copa America and Euros. You can download the app by using the link in the description of this video and use the promo code TMTV. Yes, please, don't forget to use the code. And let me tell you why. Sign up with the code TMTV to claim your special pick plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. The game I mainly play is called Pick'em. I just click on it, scroll to the soccer section, and pick a player for the specific match and select the stats that I believe will be lower or higher. It's very easy to play, but be smart about it because it's not that easy to win. I'll also be playing some Underdog Fantasy during some match live streams during the Copa America and Olympics, posting my picks on X and Instagram, so you must stay tuned for that as well. And once again, I'm a professional hater, so usually I pick anything that will have me rooting for the downfall of that player. With that said, once again, thank you Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring the channel. The link to play is in the description of this video, and the promo code once again is TMTV. Thank you, Underdog Fantasy. Next up are the Americans that play in Germany in the Bundesliga. The first one being Brendan Aronson from Union Berlin. And I'm going to give Brendan a 3 out of 10, mainly because he finished the season strong. Those last 6 to 8 weeks bumped him up. Otherwise, I was going to give him a 2. He got 2 goals and 2 assists all season long. 3 of those were during those final 6 to 8 weeks. His loan with Union Berlin is now terminated. It's over. It has expired. But it seems like Leeds doesn't want him, so I expect Brendan Aronson to get another loan, hopefully to the Bundesliga once again. Next up would have been John Brooks, but his season was terrible. He got benched, and now he's a free agent. Hoffenheim probably doesn't want him there. I don't even know if he's going to stay in the Bundesliga. I'm going to give John Brooks a 1 out of 10. It was terrible. There's no defending this season, and I have been a big John Brooks, advocate or defender. But I do want to give a shout out to Pellegrino Materazzo, the manager, the coach of Hoffenheim, that took over the team last season to help them avoid relegation, which he did. And then this season, he got them to qualify to the Europa League. So bravo to Pellegrino Materazzo, which honestly, in my opinion, he's currently the best American coach in the world right now. Better than Berhalter, Jesse Marsch, but he seems to get no attention from the mainstream media. I wonder why. Next up, we have Joe Scally and Pifok from Borussia Mönchengladbach, also known as Borussia, not Dortmund. Okay, so Joe Scally didn't really have a great season, nor did he have a terrible season. He was shaky at times on defense, but he did look competent in the Bundesliga for the most part. I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. It was an average season for Joe Scally. My only concern is that he hasn't really shown much or any progress from previous seasons. So that's my biggest concern right there with Joe Scally. As for Pefok, he was in and out of the starting 11 for Union Berlin. He did manage to score 5 goals and get 4 assists in the Bundesliga. And even so, they didn't want to sign him on a permanent deal or renew his loan. So he is heading back to Union Berlin. It was a meh season for Pefok. He is an okay Bundesliga backup, so I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10 for this season. Next up is Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg. And I'll say this, I saw a ton of progress from Kevin Paredes this season. Last season, he only got 500 minutes, and he was often bullied on the ball. He didn't really look like he belonged in the Bundesliga. Now this season, he got over 1,400 minutes during the second half of the season, much more composed on the ball, not getting bullied, and he actually contributed with 3 goals. He really stepped up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do next season as he continues to progress and develop. But for now, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for the 2023-2024 season, mainly because of the progress that he made. And also because Kevin Paredes became a starter for Wolfsburg. Next up, we have Leonard Maloney from Heidenheim. And Maloney was actually rock solid. And so was Heidenheim this season in the Bundesliga. They were honestly expected to get relegated, and they ended up qualifying to the Europa Conference League, which Maloney will play next season. He was a locked-in starter for them as a 6. He's not the most technical player, but this man can do the dirty work. He has his value. And for that reason, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 this season. And I don't know, every time I see Leonard Maloney, and you can let me know in the comment section if you also see it the same way I do, he kind of looks like Ben McElmore, the rapper. Oh, and if you made it this far in the video, don't forget to, hit that like button if you haven't already. Next up are the Americans that play in Spain, that play in La Liga. The first one being Luca de la Torre from Celta de Vigo. And Luca played as a starter for roughly 3/4 of the season, and then he got injured. And then after that injury, which we had the final quarter of the season, when he came back, he was a backup the entire time. But prior to that injury, he had 1 goal and 5 assists in La Liga, and I thought he was having a decent season. Sure, it wasn't great towards the end, but I think he earned a 6 out of 10, slightly above average season. And Celta de Vigo also avoided relegation. Let's just say that's a bonus. The other American that plays in Spain is Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. And Johnny had a good season for Internacional in 2023, and then after that, he got a transfer or he got a move to Real Betis mid-season in January of 2024. I'm just going to evaluate his 6 months in Spain rather than the months towards the end of 2023 with Internacional. And his time in Spain this season was nothing short of fantastic. Johnny arrived mid-season in a new club and country. However, he made it seem like he has been there for years. He became a locked-in starter for Real Betis, playing a more defensive role in a double pivot midfield. And, they were a good La Liga team. They finished 7th, qualifying to the Europa Conference League. He started 16 out of the 19 games that he was available, scored his first La Liga goal, which was a golazo, and he also got 2 assists, playing a much more defensive role. I'm going to give Johnny an 8 out of 10. Now let's leave Spain and go to France, so we can talk about Balogun from Monaco. And you see, he didn't really have a good season, but I also think many exaggerated how bad his season was. For starters, Balogun played over 1,600 minutes for Monaco, that finished 2nd in Ligue 1. Balogun also scored 7 goals and got 6 assists in Ligue 1. That's 13 goal contributions in a top 5 league. Sure, it's a major drop-off from the previous season where he scored over 20 goals for a team that played in transition, which was his strength. But I really don't think this season was a disaster. The advanced analytics for Balogun also weren't bad at all. But don't worry, you might be thinking I am overhyping Balogun. I agree with you. When you watched him play for Monaco, the eye test was bad. He didn't pass it. He didn't look good. He wasn't clinical in front of the goal, and he struggled to combine in multiple occasions. I'm going to give Balogun a 4 out of 10, and I expect a big bounce back next season. A 4 out of 10 is a slightly below average season because I don't think it was terrible. Oh, and hold on. There's one thing that's actually quite important for this summer that we learned this season. Do absolutely not let Balogun take a penalty kick for the U.S. men's national team. If your life depended on Balogun scoring a penalty kick, I would just go ahead and schedule the funeral. If your life depended on that man scoring a penalty kick, you are dead. Gone. Just schedule the funeral, say bye to everyone because it is over. This guy cannot score penalty kicks. And if we do go to a penalty shootout in the Copa America, I hope he doesn't have to take one. Let Matt Turner take it before he does. Now let's go to the Americans that play in the Eredivisie, the first three being the PSV boys: Malik Tillman, Ricardo Pepi, and Serginho Dest. First, let's start with Serginho Dest. This was a big comeback season after struggling with Barcelona and Milan. Dest was among one of the best fullbacks in the Eredivisie. He looked quite good on defense, while also scoring 2 goals and getting 6 assists as a fullback. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL late in the season and he won't return till 2025. His club situation is also unclear. As of now, he's going back to Barcelona because he was loaned to PSV, but we'll keep you updated on that. I'm going to give Serginho Dest an 8 out of 10 this season. Now, Malik Tillman, he really stepped up this season for PSV, which led to them signing him on a permanent deal last month. So he has finally officially left Bayern, because he kept getting loaned out to Rangers, now to PSV. Finally, PSV signed him on a permanent deal. Malik Tillman scored 9 goals and also got 11 assists in the Eredivisie, and for that, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10, the same rating as Serginho Dest. He did, however, have the oversleeping incident throughout the season and an alleged affair with a married woman, which to that, I say, I just hope it's fake news. That's all I'm going to say about it. And it's alleged. There's no evidence, apparently. So why don't we assume it's fake? As for Ricardo Pepi, he didn't really play much because Luuk de Jong was ahead of him, so I can't give him a high rating. He did, however, score a clutch goal to help PSV go through to the Champions League knockout rounds. He did also manage to score 7 goals in the Eredivisie with just 450 minutes played. I'm going to give Ricardo Pepi a 5.5 out of 10. This season probably helped him develop, but those minutes have to go up. On top of all of that, PSV also won the Eredivisie with a dominant campaign, and they made it to the Champions League round of 16. So big props to the 3 Americans that I just mentioned, Pepi, Dest, and Tillman, and the American soccer director, Ernie Stewart. Next up, we have Taylor Booth from Utrecht. You know what? This was supposed to be his breakout season, and he was mostly injured. The highlight of the season for Taylor Booth was honestly his hat trick against his brother, and a brace that he got the game after that. Outside of it, he didn't do much, just had a lot of injuries. For that reason, I'm going to give him a 3.5 out of 10. Next up is Paxton Aronson from Vitesse. So Paxton Aronson, the first half of the season, he was with Eintracht Frankfurt, and it was a solid 1. He wasn't playing at all in the Bundesliga, and then in the second half of the season, he went on a loan with Vitesse, which was a terrible team in the Eredivisie, but his time there was a solid 7. If you add those together and divide it by 2, you get a 4 out of 10 rating. However, I'm going to give him a bonus point because it seems like he developed quite a bit during his loan, and he did have some standout performances for a terrible team in the Eredivisie. For that reason, I'm going to give Paxton Aronson a 5 out of 10. Hopefully, he gets a reasonable amount of minutes next season in the Bundesliga, since he is expected to return to Eintracht Frankfurt. Now we're going to go back to England to talk about the Americans that play in the second division of England, the EFL Championship. The first one being Josh Sargent from Norwich. Josh Sargent missed 20 games this season due to an ankle injury, and he still managed to score 16 goals and get 2 assists. With that, he led Norwich to the playoffs, where they fell short against Leeds, and they didn't get promoted to the Premier League for obvious reasons, because as I said, they lost to Leeds. He was probably their best player this season, and I would not be surprised if he leaves and gets a good transfer or a big transfer this summer to a top 5 league. For that reason, I'm going to give Josh Sargent an 8 out of 10 this season. Next up is Haji Wright from Coventry. Just like Josh Sargent, Haji Wright had a big season, and he was great for Coventry. He scored 16 goals and got 7 assists in the championship, mainly playing as a winger. He was great. He was fantastic. On top of that, he had clutch moments in the FA Cup, helping them reach the semifinals, where they would end up eliminated by Manchester United. He scored a clutch goal during added time against Wolves in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup to get them to the semifinals. And then in the semifinals against Manchester United, he converted a penalty kick at the 95th minute to send the game to extra time. Unfortunately, Coventry lost on penalty shootouts and they were eliminated, but this was a tremendous season for Haji Wright in England, and for that reason, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Next on the list would have been Daryl Dike, but dude, he got an Achilles injury the season before, and then he came back and he got another Achilles injury. So it's just bad luck. I guess just like Tyler Adams, I'm going to have to give Daryl Dike a 1 not because of his actual performances, but because he didn't play at all. So let's skip Daryl Dike and go to Cardiff City, actually, or to Wales, the country, to talk about Ethan Horvath that played for Cardiff City. And for Ethan Horvath, it was a 1 for the first half of the season, 1 out of 10 rating when he was playing for Nottingham Forest, or shall I say, he wasn't playing. And then he made it to Cardiff City where he did okay. He had an average season. So I'm going to give him a 5 for his time with Cardiff City and a 1 for his time with Nottingham Forest. You add those two and divide it by 2, and you get a 3 out of 10 this season, which is not great. With that said, now let's go to Scotland and talk about Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic. And let's put it this way. He won his domestic league and cup, the Scottish League and the Scottish Cup. But the thing is, it feels like he's stagnating at this point. So the season was good if you don't take that into consideration. But then again, it's Scotland. I'm going to give him a 7, but he was really good there, but I can't give more than a 7. He needs to move to a tougher league. So Cameron Carter-Vickers gets a 7 out of 10. Now, many of you may be wondering, what's the rating for Gabriel Slonina that played for Eupen, Mark McKenzie that played for Genk, or the Venezia boys, Tanner Tessman, Gianluca Busio, Christopher Lund that plays for Palermo in the second division of Italy? I feel like I haven't followed those players close enough to give a fair rating. Gabriel Slonina, based on the stats, he didn't do well in Belgium. Mark McKenzie looks like he did well in Belgium. Tanner Tessman and Busio most certainly did well in the second division of Italy. They've been getting a lot of compliments. And Christopher Lund, I haven't watched enough. So I am not going to give those players any ratings. You feel free to do that in the comment section down below if you followed their season closely. If you followed the channel here, you know we haven't, and I'm not going to bullshit you. So these players from Belgium, the Italian second division, I will not be rating their seasons. And now to finalize this episode, because you guys bullied me into covering the Liga MX players, we're going to cover the Liga MX players, the Americans that play in Mexico. The first one being Alejandro Zendejas from Club America. And Zendejas really stepped up for Club America in 2024. And at the time of this recording, they haven't played the Liga MX final, the second leg against Cruz Azul. So maybe he even got a trophy by the time you're watching this. He got 4 goals and 3 assists for Club America during the regular season in roughly 15 matches. He has played fairly well. Nothing brilliant, but played well. And for that reason, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. He also does play for the best team in Mexico. Next up is Cade Cowell from Chivas, Guadalajara. And I'm going to cut right to it. I'm going to give Cade a 2 out of 10. He wasn't good, but I'm going to give him an extra point as a benefit of the doubt because it's his first season in a new country and his hair is pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. Otherwise, I would have given him a 1 out of 10. It was a rough season. It was just a terrible season from Cade Cowell. Last but not least, we have Brendan Vasquez from Monterrey. And Vasquez scored 6 goals in his first 15 Liga MX games. He had some good moments, but he also had plenty of meh performances and just not good performances. For that reason, I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10, an average season. This was also his first season in Mexico, so hopefully he improves, but so far he was just average. Alright everyone, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of the Americans abroad during the entire season. We covered them every single weekend. That is pure dedication right there. And if you could kindly smash the like button if you haven't already, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you also everyone that supported us by joining our Patreon, watching our videos, and much more. I'm looking forward to the coverage this summer of the Copa America, Olympics, U20 World Cup qualifying, transfers, all the good stuff. I want to thank you all very much for watching and have a great day.